AI is completely upending part of the industry. The thing to understand now is what was generated by AI.
How much content on the internet has now been generated by AI?
It's anywhere from 10 to 40% of the content on the internet.
When I first started using ChatGPT on my phone, I found myself almost like instantly just going to ChatGPT for like the basic answers.
If you go into ChatGPT and ask it how to update your email address, it's going to give you the wrong answer.
Is there still a point in like producing blog articles?
One single blog that could drive millions in unique visitors a year is now becoming less and less. A report just came out saying that there are a number of college graduates, at least from December, that have been hired as of yet.
This is True Expert Podcast, where we uncover the stories and insights of exceptional professionals. I'm your host, Justin True, and today I'm thrilled to welcome a longtime friend, former business partner, and a true expert in digital marketing, Ross Hornish. Ross is the founder of Search Marketing Pros, a digital marketing agency specializing in SEO, PPC, and paid social. With a proven track record of helping clients like Terminix and MasterBuilt dominate their industries, Ross is an expert in leveraging data-driven strategies to drive traffic, boost conversions, and deliver a measurable ROI. On top of running his own agency, Ross is an adjunct professor of marketing at Rhodes College, where he shares his deep knowledge with the next generation of marketing leaders. Today, we'll dive into Ross's journey as a leader in the digital marketing world, explore his expertise in SEO, PPC, and paid social, and discuss where these strategies are heading in the future. Ross, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Justin. I appreciate it as a friend and a former business partner.
Heck yeah. Sweet. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty of marketing and your story, let's just give the audience a little bit of background. You and I go way back, so I know a lot, but dive us in, give us kind of the track record of how you got here to begin with.
Yeah, maybe too much. Some would argue that. The background, the 400-foot view of it was went and got my MBA, reset my career, and from there was lucky enough to get pulled into digital marketing directly out of the second time went to school. And from there, never really looked back, and was lucky enough to have many mentors along the way and to work for very large organizations and small ones in between, and just kind of bounce around. So going from FedEx to AutoZone to Wonderman, part of the WPP network of agencies, to ServiceMaster, where we work together on a number of projects, to the spinoff of Terminix, to being out on my own and try to take the tools of what we learned in these big organizations and apply it to regional and sometimes local, but focus on regional businesses that can really grow by using these tools. That's what we try to focus on. So that's 10 years and a summary, basically.
Ross and I met at a pool in an apartment complex that I didn't live in, and we were just both swimming around and met each other. It wasn't until, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years later that I was walking out of my office building at ServiceMaster, a giant company, and this guy's walking out the door. I'm walking in, he's walking out, and I went right to my boss and was like, "You have to hire that guy." Like, we met at a pool, and he was fun. And we then pretty much we were forced to spend every day together, but then chose to spend Saturday and Sundays together and hung out all the time. And being in marketing is fun because I find most of the people are usually like fun and outgoing and enjoyable to be around. And then we worked together every day, and it was kind of like a shit show. Two guys that are kind of clowns that get along, make jokes, know their shit about marketing, and walk into a room and everybody's like, "Oh boy, here we go again."
Yeah, and the only thing we had go on our side was that I did think it was like we still want to get better, but we're also gonna joke around
have a good time.
Two fun notes about that too, which I don't know if you remember, but one is that on that same day, that was like the second date I ever had with my wife is when I met you, right? And the second one from that was on that day when I was walking into ServiceMaster. That was one of the craziest interview processes because somehow there was a mix-up with HR. I went to the wrong building, so I was an hour late to my, and I had pure the thought that I was just not getting the job. So I had the pure confidence to just say whatever I thought and whatever was on my mind. And I think that that transpired into this guy really knows what he's talking about. And lo and behold, to their own detriment, they'd hired me. So
I don't think you've ever had a problem speaking your mind. Just for clarity.
There's a governor on it sometimes.
It was a great time. We got to hang out at work and talk work stuff, and then we would leave work and go to a bar and continue to talk about work stuff, websites and marketing, and then so much so that we ended up making a little agency together and like making some businesses websites, and some of them weren't the tiniest businesses ever, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a great experience. And when I left Memphis to come to Chicago, Ross, you stayed and continued to carry it on in a full different direction. And like, right? Is that kind of how it went?
So you know what? I didn't give you enough credit, Justin. In the Russian doll of my agency consultant life, there was the first version where Justin put my initials backwards on our company name. And once we dissolved the company, it bore into what was my first agency, which is really just a consulting business. And then that learned lessons from that, and then decided I really needed an agency. We need a bunch of people on board. I can't just be a consultant, can't scale that way. So then that's where this company came from. So without the Justin True experience, I'm not sure that marketing pros. So anybody that is upset by that, blame Justin.
Had to get a plug in there. That was not part of the run show. All right. Let's talk about your domain, your experience, your expertise, SEO, PPC, paid social, bunch of like kind of past and forward looking thoughts, like looking at where we have all been and where we're going. What's the most impactful shift and change in SEO, PPC, or paid social that you're seeing that businesses like need to be ready to adapt to?
Yeah. So great question. The biggest thing, you're going to hear it everywhere. I'm almost tired of hearing it and talking about it, but at the same time, it's true. AI is completely upending part of the industry. So in the SEO realm, a lot of what is changing is you're getting a lot of top funnel terms, a lot of where we were looking at the awareness or where people focused on with blogs, right? Here's a query or a question, and we're going to answer that for somebody. And those have started to been getting wiped out by some AI, quick answers, generations, etc. So one of the most recent versions of what we believe happened was HubSpot. I love HubSpot. I know you love HubSpot. They've been a great resource to many marketers, but you can tell they had so much top of the funnel content that may have been, market corrected here by AI. Now they're still doing fine. They have middle of the content or middle of the funnel content. They have conversion terms that they're focusing on. Their stock price hit a high, so it's not to say that this is one thing that is like what used to happen with Google algorithm updates, where like Retail Me Not, they were wiped out their stock price and just from an update. It's not exactly the same, but
that's a huge company. Like what about smaller companies that don't have, I don't know, 25,000 pieces of content and they are the answer to 90% of general marketing questions?
Yeah. So the biggest thing with that is that a lot of times people focused funnel top down, right? Let's start with the terms and go down. And what we have, at least for the last 2 years, have been truly focused on all of our clients are really just going bottom up, which you probably should have anyway, because those are conversion terms. It's best to fill the funnel with versions of that, but things that we like to help promote to people too is that it's not just one funnel. You should split them out into a product funnel. You should split it out into a brand funnel as well. So just making sure that even when it comes to brand terms, that is completely built out. That'll help protect you against anything for all the blog efforts that you may have had or will have going forward. That may protect against that. At the same time, the other note is that what we've seen is even if you're putting out blogs and they're very locally focused, they could do very well. So let's say you're focusing specifically on Chicago or on a specific area of Chicago, I don't know, Lincoln Park. And from there, those can still be very beneficial for local searches that we know the search engines and AI bots, they just can't understand how to summarize that yet. So just as a note.
All right, 2 questions. Not asking you for like the referenced citation and exact, but like, do you have any best estimate or recent readings of how much content on the internet has now been generated by AI? And then there's a follow-up.
There are estimations and they range wildly. So the hard thing to understand now is what was generated by AI, and not to get all professor or philosopher on you, but the question becomes: so what is deemed to be AI generated content? A quick example of that is you write a blog,
right?
Were you run it through Grammarly just for a spell check? Is that AI generated content?
Okay. Just give me a number. Like, are people saying it's like 10% or 50%?
It's anywhere from 10 to 40% of the content on the internet. The estimate that's there. You can tell it's the last few 3 years, the content itself has exploded.
And try not to give like just a stock answer. Like, is there still a point in like producing blog articles and content? And like, yeah, we all know that like good content, well written, great content is going to beat crappy or just not awesome, like just an ocean of AI content. But like, is it still a fight worth fighting and winning to be producing your blogs daily, weekly, whatever the frequency is recommended for SEO purposes, not for like consumers or potential buyers to consume and like really learn about what you do, like just for placement on the SERP.
Yeah. So my disclaimer here is unbiased. I see it from my angle and how Google is reading it right now and what I can assume of where they're going in the future, trying to lead or guide it here in the next year to 2 years. I still think it's valuable. It depends on what is your purpose and what is your value. I know that is a little bit of a templated answer, but it is true where it's like, if you are a SaaS business and you're trying to put out a specific guide and you're focusing on people at a VP level that are getting their company up and running on HubSpot, whatever it is, you may want to have an entire guide about a specific part of that. That is still going to be very helpful for 2 reasons. One is right now, there are many queries that still aren't summarized. 2 is even the ones that are, they still have to reference these items. So in there, you'll see there's links. And right now, what I am doing, and but we are starting to see here, people are clicking on these links all well to understand more about it. So even then, still helpful to be there. And then 3 is we're still seeing a good amount of clicks in the top 3, even for those queries, because what's happening is if you truly are looking for an answer. Sometimes you still want to know more and more. You don't just want the 10, the 10 things summarized about how to set up that. You need to know to really dive in there. So in a way, it can also be a qualifier where before we were getting a bunch of blog traffic, your conversion rate starts dropping. As you get more, but you get more leads. Now you are kind of whittling out some of the people that may not have been as interested in services previously.
Yeah. I definitely feel some of my own behaviors shifting. They shifted, but then they're starting to shift back. Like when I first started using ChatGPT on my phone, which I was super excited that when they released the app, I found myself almost instantly just going to ChatGPT for the basic answers, for the basic questions that I knew there was an answer to, right? Like cooking and trying to convert a gram to a cup of flour or whatever it was. I started working in grams recently. It's a lot easier to get precise with chemistry. Sometimes I'd go to Google for that stuff rather than finding a calculator through the SERP. I'd just ask the SERP. Anyway, I started using ChatGPT for that. Once Google started bringing in Gemini into the fold, I found myself going back to Google because that was just the normal habit of always opening Google. And my point here is I didn't even think about which I also practice myself in this behavior is I'll ask a question, say about one of my plants over here. Gemini will give me the answer to validate, do this when X happens. And then I'll go and just look. Now that I know what the actual answer is, now I'll go into the first, second, or third listing to be all right, let me dive in and really figure out why this thing is growing that way. It really dives in. So it's the Gemini is validating, go this way. And then I'm picking what brand or publisher I'm going to trust to give me the information and build a relationship with them, basically.
Yeah. And you have to remember, if you go into ChatGPT and ask it how to update your email address, it's going to give you the wrong answer. There's still a learning curve that it has and it's going through. So it can't even tell you how to update the email address on its own platform. Now with that said, each model that's coming out is exponentially better and better, and I'm sure they'll solve some of those things in the future. But we forget. Part of the genius of Google was the fact that it just kind of laid out 10 links and it was hey, you figure it out. And from there, the more that people clicked and read around, the more that, the higher that you could rank. So that, I don't know, that was the genius of Google. I think part of that is still there,
Yeah. Cool. I think I got one more question before we start to get back to your history, but this is why you're here, because you're an expert in this stuff, and I have questions. You have answers. Businesses that are currently just cranking out blogs, hardcore, high frequency, whether they're just straight up copying and pasting from an AI agent or taking it and then rewriting it, whatever, or tuning it. Can that be an effective way to drive your organic position and hopefully drive some traffic?
Yes. Again, it's becoming more micro. So the example I used before was with SaaS. I brought up another example about local itself of how to do local targeting even with a blog. The way I see it is that you should probably couple everything into a campaign where, yes, you could put out the blog. It should be probably very specific to what you're targeting. And yes, and hopefully you're able to still drive from the top of the funnel, middle, bottom of the funnel, whatever you're focusing on. Insert product or service here. That still should be able to help. Same time, we still look at the idea of cutting those ideas up and the distribution of that as well into different formats and channels as being key as well. So the blog is the cornerstone or the key foundation of a piece of content. And then that can be cut down or just transposed into YouTube, the second largest search engine. and broken down into many different pieces that you're putting out on Meta, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, etc. So we used to look at blogs as like it's the start of everything because it's one big core concept. And as far as traffic alone, depending on where you're at, like the idea that you're going to have a blog that will drive one single blog that could drive millions in unique visitors a year is now becoming less and less dependent. The fact that you can have a blog that will drive solid sales, leads, etc., that's becoming ever more a possibility, and it should be part of your plan. And then it's the idea of how can we use this one item, this blog, and turn it into a bunch of different things and distribute it. We think that's very powerful. And then you see, video search, social search, those things are all going up. The more that you're able to take little pieces out from your blog and put it into these other places that people are searching as well, the more that you discover.
So sounds like using AI to generate content is can be a thing that can drive traffic, drive eyes, drive interest, drive revenue. Do you think that there's a certain capacity that the world has and people have for how much content's out there? Like, isn't that just going to continue? I mean, I bet they used to say like Moore's law, the chip size like decreases by 50% or capacity doubles every year. Like, are we just going to hit a breaking point of how much content's out there and how much content's being produced and how much we can consume in any one given minute, hour, day?
I mean, there is a reason why silent retreats are spiking in interest lately. So I'm sure that there is some version of it, the attention economy, and it hitting its breaking point. So yes, I think that, and I think it's just like testing with everything else. At some point, if you wrote 2 blogs every day and released it, like what you're going to end up doing too is probably cannibalizing on your own content, which is that's the main thing that I see people doing now is, hey, we have to have content. We have to have content. And then what they're doing is they're stepping on their own feet, and because they're really saying, what you should know about product A. And then they say like, well, you should know about product B. And they're so close that they're actually, hitting against each other. So, yes, I think the attention of people sometimes can get over content, and then externally, you can produce too much. Internally, you can produce too much. It's one of the main issues that I see almost every time I go into a blog is not updating the content that you already have, but just trying to create new content.
Cool. All right, let's roll back. Let's talk about search marketing pros a little bit. What's your favorite thing to do for a customer?
My favorite thing to do is to see our clients range wildly in revenue. We probably would like to tighten that up a little bit. But one of my favorite things to do is when we get a customer that may be a little bit on the lower end of the revenue scale, and once you bring in, a 20% bump in revenue, 25% bump in revenue total for the year, and they only have so much in revenue, but it's a huge deal to them, and you can really get to see a business grow. You start hiring more people. Their dream that you can tell that they have for the business starts to become realized. That's very important to us, and we know the more that we're able to help facilitate that, the more that we're going to be able to help them out, the more that they're going to tell their friends about what we did, and trying to help grow with them. So that truly is the reason why I started this business, and saw it was available is to help others grow, and just know that when you do that, it will come back to you. So
super cool. That's awesome. Do you solely or what percentage of your portfolio are these like lawn pest services, or do you do everything?
We are 90% home service focused right now. So we definitely handle people outside of that. We've handled everything from fintech, e-commerce, products of the vaping type, like everything from there. We handle audits, whether it be PPC, SEO, etc., playbooks for social media, how to pay social media, how to set that up. But 90% of who we focus on and where we feel we are the best, we truly compete against other people, much bigger than ourselves even, is in home services, and specifically inbound marketing, SEO, PPC, paid social.
Super. How often is it that you're bringing on a new client in the home services space, or you're talking to a home services business? How often are you like so confident in their target market, their problem, their source of opportunity? How often do you say like, "Oh, we got this, like no problem, come be my customer," or sometimes do you go into it thinking this exact like funnel and approach and service and target market like hasn't been cracked yet, and I can't necessarily really strongly agree like we're gonna figure this out?
Yeah, it's a great question. And usually what we see, because of our customer range, is there's two different types. And this is boiling it down maybe to be too simple. But we have the large end, a decent amount of revenue. Regional business is in multiple states, has many locations. They usually are with, at the time, one single agency that's trying to do everything. And then it's hard for them to really focus then on, what we focus on, which is SEO, PPC, paid social. And from there, we usually are fairly confident because we go in and see, here are the zip codes that you're not targeting. Here's the personas we don't have content written for. We see questions that are not answered on a website. Flows even within customer service and from listening to customer calls, things that are not being addressed. So upper end, that's usually what we see, feel fairly confident. Hey, we can focus on these three things, get it back to you much better than what you have. Versus lower end, these are still local businesses. They usually have 3 locations, and they're growing somewhere between, $5 and $15 million. They have some version of a marketing department, and people that are doing a great job, but they may just don't understand exactly what it means to fully set a budget and like try to bring down and work the 3 channels together to bring down your acquisition costs. So we feel confident there. And we have turned people away and said, hey, we don't think we're the best provider for you. We think you need like a brand agency, as an example, and try to recommend people to that. So we're trying to get better ourselves too, and understanding exactly where we fit, exactly where we need to grow. But even right now, we feel very confident in our organic space, especially locally. We really do have a solid playbook that we've put together over the past 10 years. And then on the paid media side, we're putting those two together. So for the past 5 years, we put this local playbook together for paid media, and it's going very well as well. So all 3 of these things working in tandem: the organic, the paid, we're going to call it PPC, right, and the paid social. All of those working together helps you lower the cost and get more leads.
Super cool. Interesting. I know that you had history of home services because we worked together. We both do. We both did. But prior to that, you were at AutoZone. Is there any similarity in shape to AutoZone and home services, considering like it's retail, it's location-based, it's kind of solving a problem? I imagine there's a lot of SEO and PPC that go into AutoZone as well, or that type of company. So Are they kind of genetically, from a marketing strategy perspective, somewhat similar, or would you say they're totally different?
I forget the Steve Jobs thing quote where it's like, yeah, you can only understand the points looking back. I think what AutoZone helped to do on the local side was we had to set, with 5,000 locations, you have to set a retail based local strategy. So I want people to go to a AutoZone. What are all the things that go into try to serve that? And then how that relates back. And it took me a few years to really switch over and talk to other SEOs, other PPC people about is, instead of this retail location, hey, I'm going to someplace. Anytime in home services, you're going, you have a location, but your service going out. There's a different way to do that and to show, hey, we're located here, but trust me, I know it sounds like a long way away, but we have plenty of trucks. We do service up to 30 miles away, things like that. And to show Google and the customer that you're able to do that. It's just a slight kind of alteration. But e-commerce is way different than, lead-based generation. And auto parts is most definitely way different than Central.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about that for a second. Lead gen versus e-commerce. Do any of your home service clients do online scheduling, online booking, or is it and purchasing prior to getting service, or is it still a world where somebody's got to come out, somebody's got to look at it, somebody's got to tell you, they're going to write you a piece of paper, you still might get an email, but what's the mix there that you're seeing?
So putting my professor hat on, I would say that the tough part with home services is sometimes people look at it as a commodity. So it's just I just want to know a price. What's the price and what does this cost? And generally, a lot of the people that we work with, they do have very good service rates, very good customer service rates, right? They're gonna answer when you call. They are going to provide a service, and we don't want them to come back. So those are the few baselines. The tough part when consumers may or may not be looking at you as a commodity and just a price, sometimes they're going to remove some of those aspects. So this is the long-winded answer to your question of, yes, some people are trying it. Some are doing a great job at it. Some definitely have some opportunity. So an example is we have somebody that only uses that when their call center goes down. So call center goes down at 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. At that time, millennials, a lot of homeowners now, maybe on their phones trying to purchase stuff. You have an opportunity, 2 a.m., you want to try to purchase something, go ahead. But as soon as, there's someone in a call center, they may close that down just because it is hard to sometimes convey those aspects of, results, customer service and scheduling through e-commerce. Although some people have done it better, it's most definitely it's a huge challenge. And it's definitely a question in home services industry.
Nice. I got a call, or I got an ad yesterday or 2 days ago for like redoing all of my interior piping, and this is like a 110-year-old building, so like it's one of the next things on the list to take care of. They said they could do it really like inexpensive and high quality and da. So I hit the get more information button. I filled out the form. I knew they were going to call me. Totally cool. That's why I filled it out. The next day, they called me about every 90 minutes until I picked up. And as soon as they called me the first time, I was on a meeting. And I was like, oh, I actually want to talk to these people, but I can't right now. So I just ignored it. But I was like, oh, they'll probably call back, or I'll call them back. Like 90 minutes later, they called me back. Well, I wanted to talk to them still, but I was still busy. And at that point, I was like, they're probably going to call me a bunch of times. And so I'll just pick up whenever I can. No shit. They called me like 5 times, and it wasn't until like 6 o'clock at night that I was like, hey, I'm finally free. Thanks for playing tag with me for 8 hours. So on one hand, I was like, this is kind of crazy and annoying. The other hand, I was like, hey, they're being resilient and they probably understand that people are busy.
Yeah, that's the especially home services more than many other industries I know. The sales and marketing like tie-in is very important because we can give you a lead, and there's a chance that a salesperson may be persistent to to their success or to their own detriment, and we've seen it. We've had to come in sometimes either on call recordings or just reviewing some of the stats of, hey, this is here's a note of maybe being a little bit too persistent here. So I see it as the still opening up. One of the hardest things is to understand how people want to communicate with you. Do you want to, if they sent you a text, like, would you have liked that? Or some people were like, hey, I do not want a text right now. Some people want an email. Some people want a call, a text, or an email, but it all depends on what time of the day and what exactly they're doing right there. It's hard to understand which, but I feel your pain, and I have blocked people straight up because of overcalling as well.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's shift into a little bit broader, like about your business. So you've been search marketing pros has been around for how long now? Or any previous things that might have, how long have you been doing this?
Officially 2 years. It may have been in a gray area for 6 to 8 months prior to that, but
okay,
we'll go 2 years now. Yeah.
Cool. What's been a high point and what's been a low point in the development?
Thank you. The high point is probably most recently where we're hiring more, and you get all of that. The double-edged sword of growth and the success and the pain from it. So most recently, the high point is right now today, and hopefully it'll be tomorrow as well. The low point is probably today and maybe tomorrow as well, because there are strains when it comes to hiring. Just selecting, we're still a startup. We're completely bootstrapped. We want to keep it that way. So to do that, in deciding who your next hire is, that's the thing that I know that there's a lot of room for growth on my part to understand how to set up the organization properly and to make it run the most efficiently, to number one, return to our clients a great service. But the second aspect of that is, people talk about hiring as just a kind of a coin flip itself, and just try to get better at hiring. So that's at least what I personally was trying to focus on for 2025, is to get a little bit better at that, and check back in 6 months, maybe just outsource it. Who knows?
If you could wave a magic wand for any one thing in your business right now, like your business, what would you just like feel like, boom, problem solved?
A chocolate fountain on tap.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That. In my business, it is, I alluded to it. It's probably hiring, right? Of just like, boom, oh, look at this. Here's the perfect candidate right in front of me. I didn't have to spend any money. You said, if I had a magic wand, what could I?
Yeah.
Well, that would be it.
How many,
or chocolate fountain.
Out of 10 businesses that were also like qualified to be in your realm where they're hiring, how many of them do you think would say the same thing? 10?
Most likely, yeah. Especially in agency life. What's funny too is that a report just came out saying that there are a number of college graduates, at least from December, that haven't been hired as of yet. So the tough part now is everyone like me, I need somebody that has experience, but there are vast group of people who, if you just train them, and you have the timeline, you can actually probably get a lot of great talent. So we're also looking at that, as well. But I'm sure there are many other people that have the issue of hiring right now too.
Totally. I bet. Nice. All right, let's move on to some other stuff you've done doing. At one point, you were an editor on a book. Can you give us the high level of that process? What was it?
Yeah. So helped to edit the book called Buy Student Loan Debt back when student loans were cool, and was written by Dan Mendelsohn, who's my friend and partner in that realm. And we knew that there was an epidemic of student loans back in 2017, where we knew from personal experience what it was like to go through that, try to overcome it. There were a lot of others that were in that field as well. So it was fun from myself of Dan had this core concept of a book, knew what he wanted to write, how to have it written out. And I was purely editor from the aspect of here's how you break up information and put it into a digestible kind of version and make it a little bit more fun for people that most likely, have student loans, not focusing on the parents, but you are focusing on recent graduates, 0 to 2 years out that, they get their first bill and they realize, oh my gosh, I have to pay $1, $2, $500, $1,000 a month in student loans. It's crazy. What am I supposed to do? So that was great and great experience. And then, through many things that have happened through the last few years, everybody had pause on student loans. So you can see it's just one of those things of like, it's the snooze button. Like, I will get to that later. I'll get to that later. I'm so proud of the students that still continue to pay off their debt while things are paused. It's great, but now it's coming back, and it's going to be a thing that many people are going to have to address here soon.
Yeah, being part of that, because you were also on the publishing and distribution side of that project, right?
Yeah. So marketing the book, we try to do everything in-house. We're glad to do it again. I'm not sure I would do it that way. It was a good learning experience. But even now, we piggybacked off of the Amazon network. So, it's print on demand. It's a little bit higher cost, but it just sends every book out. You get a certain percentage back from it. And then we have the Kindle and the audiobook version, which is voiced by myself. You can tell my sultry deep voice. We get a little bit of revenue from that as well. So again, looking back, if I had to do it differently, I probably would do it much differently now in 2025 than I would have in 2017.
You would have done it differently, or you just wouldn't have done it, period?
No, I would have done it differently. Still would have done it, but really just go to somebody that does markets and distributes books all day long and just say, hey, you help me do this.
Like you with home services.
Yeah. But these are the things that we learn.
Heck yeah. Nice. All right. Before we wrap up and get out of here, any thoughts that I might have skipped over in our conversation that you got?
Yeah, I love your hair. I've always loved it, and I've been slightly obsessed with it. So I just wanted to say, I always think of that.
It's the most positive thing I ever heard all day. It's 11 a.m. I'll let you know if anybody else hits it. Thanks, dude. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ross, for being part of True Experts. This is episode 2. Very happy to have you on here. You've not only we've been friends for quite a while. We're in a very complementary field. I've been marketing general as a fractional CMO. You are a super specialty niche service provider of those things, and it has always enabled us to have a good dynamic and have a good conversation like this. So I appreciate you being here on the podcast on this journey. And for everybody listening, check out Ross if you're in need of any kind of SEO, PPC, or paid social, not just home services. And for everybody listening, also don't forget to subscribe and Find True Experts on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Until next time.